Abdullah is Senior Vice President of Finance of the Saudi Arabian Oil Company, and he is in charge for controlling, for treasurer. So listen, treasurer, there's obviously at least some company where still something to treasure, and the general auditing functions. He has a degree in civil engineering from the University of Petroleum and Minerals, and he has a master degree in business administration from MIT Sloan School of Management, which he obtained in 1998. So he'll deliver us a presentation about the growing of the global economy driven by oil. And Abdullah, I've looked through your presentation and I was asking myself, having seen that crisis, what crisis? Is there any? But we'll listen to that later. So I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How is the sound? Good? Because I have loud voice and I don't want the mic to. I want to congratulate the MIT Club of Germany for organizing this event and for inviting me. Mohammed called me and he said, we're having this great event and it will not be complete without having a representation from the Middle East. And it is quite fitting, actually, to have somebody from the Middle East talk about the role of the Middle East. And I know the topic is the financial crisis, repercussions and remedies, but I thought the energy is an important element in fueling the world economy, and it would be good to focus my discussion on the role of energy in fueling the world economies. I will not spend a lot of time on the causes of the financial crisis. I think it's been widely covered and discussed, but I will leave that for the Q&A part. The energy industry, oil and gas in particular, is a cyclic industry. So this crisis is not new to us, and we've learned it the hard way to take the long-term view. And nothing better to summarize my theme of my presentation than showing you a quote from our president and CEO in 2006. Note that this is in 2006, before the crisis. This is the mindset that we have in the oil and gas industry. Although global petroleum consumption has exhibited considerable volatility in the short term, in this short term, it's actually not only volatility, but some decline. It's rising worldwide oil demand that is the surest feature in the future energy landscape. The combination of growing global population and greater prosperity and affluence in developing economies point to the way towards a relentless increase in petroleum demand over the next several decades. 4 themes that I will cover. The first one is to talk about the energy demand and the role of the growth in population and the expectation of raising the standard of living around the world and increasing the demand and the call on energy. The second is that fossil fuel, oil, gas, and coal will continue to be the dominant source of energy for several decades to come. It also highlights that we need all the other sources of energy to meet the world demand. So it's not a matter of competition, but it's a matter of complementarity between all the energy mix. And our challenge is how we can meet the growth in world oil and world energy demand by bringing in all these sources of energy. I will then talk about the GCC as a global source of energy, also highlight the role that the GCC plays as a stimulus in terms of stimulating the world economies, mainly because of the aspirations and the great investments that are taking place to help diversify the economy and raise the standard of living in the GCC. And last, I will talk about Saudi Aramco, a national oil company, but with significant global responsibility. How this national oil company have succeeded to operate as a true business and a global enterprise. No matter what report we can look at, all indications is that the world population today is around 6.7 and expected to rise over 9 billion by 2050. This means that these people will need energy, will need to raise the economy. When we look at the population today, with regards to their access to energy, only 1/3 have adequate access to energy. The other third have partial access. And there is 1/3 that doesn't have access to energy. In other words, you're looking at almost 6 billion more people searching for energy. Again, this chart highlights the role of the fossil fuel, coal, gas, and oil as the significant source of energy for decades to come. It also highlights the role of the other energies. But again, the message from this is that you need all the sources of energy, and we need to be very practical about it. We need to invest in the right technologies to address the environmental issues, both on the fossil fuel as well as on the alternative energies. This concept of thinking that you end dependence on oil is not correct, just from being practical and pragmatic. Also, you can look at it from the expectations of all nations. You have the producing nations and you have the consuming nations. And there is a great interdependence between the two countries or the nations. The suppliers look for customers and the customers want security of supply. So as much as consuming nations look for security of supply, believe me, producing nations look for security of demand. So what is the message from this? Is the need for us to promote globalization and interdependence. You've heard and you've read probably many that talk about peak oil theory, and the world is running out of oil. I thought to share with you this chart. And let me explain it. You have the conventional oil and you have the non-conventional oil. The conventional oil is the oil that is primarily produced today, and the non-conventional, you're talking about the extra heavy, the oil sands, and the oil shale, which is partially being produced. And when you look at the proven reserves, these are with a confidence of almost 100%, 95% confidence that you can extract this oil. The world have consumed only 1.5 trillion, and there are more 2 trillions potential that can be produced. And then you look at the growth and undiscovered, and you look at the possible, probable, and contingent, and you're looking at more than 8 trillion available in the world as conventional oil. Almost the same amount, or if not larger, in the non-conventional. Granted, the recovery rate from the non-conventional is less. But what is the message from this? If you believe in human creativity, if you believe in technology, the resources are available. Does that mean that we should be wasteful? No. Does that mean we should panic? No. It means that we have to be very deliberate in conservation, in promoting technology, in looking for clean solutions for the primary source of energy, which is the fossil fuel. Now, this takes me to the GCC. The GCC is a primary source of energy. It's endowed with a lot of resources. Almost 40% of the world-proven oil reserves are in the GCC. It's a primary source, and it is foreseen to be playing a critical role in meeting the incremental demand on the world to meet oil incremental demand. 23% of the production is coming from the GCC, and 40% are the proven reserves. Just to put things in perspective, oil meets 40% of the world energy and 95% of the transportation energy. So you still need the fossil fuels and the other sources to address the electricity and utility requirements of the world. The GCC also plays, because of its unique characteristics, and each, by the way, country in the Middle East has its own characteristics and structural and aspirations, but collectively the GCC plays as an economic stimulus for the world, because many of the revenues that are coming from the sale of oil are being used to raise the standard of living, to diversify the economy, and you have a growing population. You're looking at a total of 1.9 trillion worth of investment that will be made in the GCC during the next, between 2009 and 2016. So because of their aspirations, because of the opportunities that are there, in a way, the GCC is acting as an economic stimulus. And you hear about many projects that have been completed or are being executed today that are keeping significant economic activities around the world. This takes me to Saudi Aramco, and I will just have a few slides about it. The first one is a data sheet about Saudi Aramco. It's a fully integrated national oil company. It's fully owned by the Saudi Arabian government, but it's organized as a commercial enterprise. It has its independent board, and it operates as a for-profit corporation. We have a global reach, and we run commercially. Long-standing legacy of being a responsible and a reliable supplier for the world. Recoverable liquid reserves, 260 billion, about quarter of the world proven oil reserves. We maintain a maximum sustained capacity of 12 million barrels a day. This is a significant commitment to the stability of the world market. When you maintain such a spare capacity, for instance, our today's production is around 8.5 million barrels a day. To have that spare capacity is a strong signal to the market and to the world and to consuming nations that we are committed to market stability. The gas reserves, 263 trillion cubic feet, and the gas production, 8.3, mainly used to advance industrialization and economic diversification of Saudi Arabia, refining capacity of 2.1 million barrels a day, and we have one of the world's largest shipping fleet of 24 tankers, aimed again towards market stability, because we want to make sure that we will be able to deliver to our clients around the world. We're guided by three key strategies: international commitment, national commitment, and commercial commitment. Internationally, we recognize that we have to be responsive to the global energy needs, and we have to have significant system flexibility. And I talked about the maximum sustained capacity, but the system flexibility actually goes beyond that in the way we design and build our facilities to ensure that there is no interruption. A lot of flexibility are built in. And this is not surprising. We almost meet 12% of the world oil production. So we're a significant player, and we have to make sure that we don't affect the mercantile exchange except in a positive way. Nationally, we are the main source of income for the government, but we also play a critical role in helping meeting the industrialization needs of the country and meeting energy demand, as well as feedstock demand. We also promote attracting industries that leverage our competitive advantage and help diversify the economy. Significant social responsibility, we take it very seriously, and we do that because it makes good business sense for us. We say we have to be a good corporate citizen with significant corporate social responsibility, not just out of charity, but it really makes good business sense. You can't be an island of success while everything around you is not benefiting. So we reach out at many fronts: education, healthcare, training, promoting the local businesses, and it pays in the long run. It created pool of talent available for us. It created suppliers and manufacturers readily available to us. And you have to recognize that when oil was discovered in Saudi Arabia, none of this was established. So we had to help create that. But at the same time, we have a shareholder who has a country to run and entrusted us. And we have to earn the right to be the operator of choice. And we can only do that if we stay commercially viable. Believe me, we are probably one of the most capital disciplined and fiscal disciplined company in the world. We scrutinize every investment. We look at it from a commercial mindset. Few investments that we do are meant to help and promote the economy of Saudi Arabia, and we do the economics based on macroeconomics by looking at the macroeconomic benefits for the country. But for the most part, most of our investments are done on commercial basis. These are what have been often cited as the critical success factors: sound management practices and business principles, solid corporate governance framework, and I talked about the board and independent board. We have strong external auditing function where we have an outside international accounting firm audit us, but also we have strong internal auditing function. Clear delineation of responsibilities in the organization and accountability. Strong conflict of interest given the high spending of this company in the country. Strong conflict of interest policy for all employees at all levels. So corporate governance is extremely high. People, relentless commitment to talent development. And I have a slide on that to talk about what Saudi Aramco did in order to address the talent issue, the challenge of attracting young graduates from high school and developing them. Leading edge technology, this is a technology intensive business, and we're the world leader in applying technologies that are related to our business. If you talk to anybody in the oil and in the energy sector, in conventional oil, we are at the leading edge in terms of technology. What you see there are what we call nanorobots. This is an aspiration to send small robots in the reservoir that will go and collect data for you and send it real time to tell you about the behavior of the reservoir. We've tested these physically just to make sure that when you send them, you will be able to retrieve them. And now we're designing these robots to be equipped with all the features for it. Commitment to safety and the environment and deeply held corporate culture of social responsibility, which I talked about. Last slide about, talent development. We have a quite diversified workforce, over 52,000, about 85% of them Saudis, but the rest actually represent a total of 50 nationalities working for the company. 10 million man hours of training annually, over $500 million of annual training budget. Diverse training, both industrial, vocational. We send people for scholarship, for undergraduate and advanced degree, professional and leadership. I think the key fact to this is to recognize that on any given day, over 8% of the workforce is engaged in one form of training or another. To recap, energy plays a critical role in fueling the world economy. Population is growing, and in the long run, energy demand is going up. Fossil fuel, oil in particular, will play a critical role in meeting energy demand, but you need all the energy sources to complement each other. The GCC will play as a critical role in terms of meeting energy demand, but also in facilitating economic activities as a stimulus. And Saudi Aramco is proud of its international, national, and commercial commitment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abdullah, for this interesting presentation. Looks like your business is pretty robust and doesn't care about the rest of the world's economy. I mean, we all need oil, we all need energy. So, sounds like no crisis for you guys, and especially what I found really interesting is that 2/3 of world's population not yet have an adequate access to energy. So it looks like there's a lot of more business for you waiting out there. Now, my question, which we'll probably discuss later, is, but what happens once the conventional oil is gone and you have to do more efforts to get the stuff out of the earth? What that will probably mean, and is that probably the source of a crisis in 30 years from now when the conventional oil is gone? Let's discuss that later.